Our next matter is 252516 People versus Bruce Ruway. We have to shift gears every time we go for a translator to a non-translator because it takes 3 times as long to do things. We have to speak slowly. So we're back to all one language. This is a case that was assigned to Daniel Frazine, and he prepared the screening report. It was an interesting set of facts. Daniel did a nice report here. Mr. Verway was very forthcoming. Mr. Gibson, what would you like me to know?
Well, as the report indicates, the defendant is employed. He has a successful job and career. He has a stable residence. He's married. I don't think we would be here today if not for the defendant's adult son passing away approximately 2 months before the incident.
This case instantly changes once the court learns his son passed away just weeks earlier. What looks like a standard DUI case suddenly becomes a story about grief, depression, and self-destruction.
The report does a good job of explaining the situation. I guess we could say that the defendant started down a bad path, trying to handle his pain through alcohol, and that obviously is unhealthy. I think the defendant is obviously very intelligent, and he was able to recognize that he does have a family history with his parents and alcohol. And so I think he recognizes that this is not the right way. And so since then, he has started going to the counseling. He's been going to the AA, which it sounds like that the AA meetings are helping. So I think that that's something sounds like something he should continue to go to. Because regardless of whether or not the defendant, maybe he doesn't have necessarily urges to go back to alcohol, but this is not something that, he needs to understand that he could be back in that same spot again. And so I think the defendant has learned from this. And so I think, it's not something he ever expected he would have to deal with. And so he is learning, and I think he's now handling things the right way. So I think the recommendation is fair. I would ask the court to follow the recommendation. Thank you.
This is a case where I think we could benefit from a probation and some continued supervision. Daniel, anything else you want me to know?
Well, this was unusual. Often we hear, well, I was either not drunk and I drank after the fact. He admits that he was probably drunk at the time, but it is interesting because the whole set of circumstances of him losing his keys and then he just decided to finish it. So I'm sure that contributed to a great increase in his BAC after the fact. He couldn't drive anywhere, but he did drive there. The accident is kind of a weak accident. He kind of just bumped up against a cement post, but no damage to that, just a scratch on the bumper. If it wasn't for the guns and the high BAC, I would say this is definitely something that's probably not normal for him. It would be an isolated incident, and he had some huge grief. I mean, as a parent of 5 children, I can't even imagine what he was going through. Obviously, he knows that this is not a healthy way to handle it. I think his wife had some similar discussions with him. He's got a better grasp of it now. I think he's on a good spot. But because of the guns, the accident, the mild accident, and the high BAC, I think it's definitely merited a term of probation. And I don't think we're going to see him again, but we definitely could benefit from term of probation.
Mr. Verway, I'm interested in where you got arrested, which was at the back of the cattle dairy farm. This ain't on the way to nowhere. It's on Frank Jones Road, which is not easy to get to. I guess you can get to it. Well, it's not easy to get to. You got to take some other roads to get there. You lived at that time on James Drive. How did you end up at the back of the dairy farm?
When I left my house, it's a couple miles away from my house. I was actually going to go to the Coverage Bridge and park in that park behind it. But when I seen the cows and the peaceful stuff, I just had to go there.
You know what my fear is? My fear is you went there to shoot yourself. My fear is you went there to commit suicide.
And here comes the moment that completely shifts the courtroom. The judge openly says what everyone's quietly thinking. That trip to the dairy farm may not have just been about drinking alone.
I'm glad you didn't. There's Kleenexes there. I'm glad you didn't. And I think that you've been afraid to admit that. There's guns all over the place. And there's a conviction of possession of firearm while intoxicated. I'm really glad you didn't. Grief is a process. You don't turn it off like a switch. You have to suffer it. And eventually it gets better. But alcohol is not the answer to that question. Neither is leaving everybody else behind to pick up the pieces. You did acknowledge that you were probably intoxicated at the time you were at the back of the dairy farm. But I will concede that you probably continued to drink after that. You were almost to the point where they had to take you to the hospital. Let's do the gun cases first. Possession of a firearm while intoxicated is a misdemeanor, but it requires the forfeiture of the guns. This isn't gun therapy. I'm going to give you the minimum. Well, I'm going to give you the day in jail. I said we have 1 day jail here, Daniel, or 2?
I had 2 down here.
All right, 2 days jail credit, 2 days. 0 fine and cost concurrent with count 1. And the firearms and ammunition are forfeited. We're going to try to make it better. You'd be a great sobriety court fit. I'd be all in your business. But this is the first time, as far as I can tell, you ever got arrested for anything. So in order to be eligible for sobriety court, you have to have at least 2 drunk drivings. Now, don't go out and get another one. That's not the goal. Were you on Ambien at the time of the arrest, or is that since then?
No, I was on Ambien and a Flexerol. That's what I have a back
2
surgery.
terrible things combined with alcohol. You're lucky to kill yourself accidentally by mixing those medications. Now, remember what happened with Tiger Woods when he mixed alcohol with Ambien. And he's still struggling, but I guess he's working on it, so we'll commit him for that. I'm going to follow Daniel's recommendation. I'm going to defer some. I'm going to do a 24-month probation. This wasn't impaired. They reduced it all the way to impaired. That will allow you to drive back and forth to work. So that was a benefit, a substantial one. I'm going to order 12 days jail credit, 2, leaving 10 days to serve, and with the 12 days, 10 are deferred. Drinking driving is an expensive proposition. There's a $300 fine, a $75 crime victims' rights fee, a $50 state minimum fee, a $100 screening fee, $150 attorney fee, $960 probation oversight fee. You can complete this probation in 12 months, which would save you $480. There's $255 restitution to St. Joe County Sheriff's Department. We are going to do the victim impact panel, which is $32. And Yeah, I guess I'll follow your recommendation for gun safety. No drugs and no alcohol. We're gonna test as directed. When did you have your last drink?
December 5th or 6th that night.
All right, very good. Are you doing AA or any sort of treatment?
I've been doing AA,
Where do you do it?
Vicksburg. I've been going to Vicksburg every Wednesday.
All right, some of my sobriety court people are in Vicksburg. You may have met them. Vicksburg's got a good solid AA support community, and I'm very pleased that you're doing that. This was not gonna fix it. Your wife needs you, your other son needs you. They need to share the grief, and you would just.
This isn't just sentencing anymore. It a judge try and pull someone back from rock bottom. Instead of only punishment, the focus turns toward survival, recovery, and giving this man a reason to keep going.
Pounded. So you're gonna be here and you're gonna be better and you're gonna help your family all recover from this loss. I want you to sign a release from Pivotal. And outpatient therapy is recommended. So this was the low point probably of your adult life. And this night. So we can go up from here. Daniel's going to be on top of this probation. You are what I would call a very compliant defendant. I think you're going to do what's asked of you. And it'll get better, but it's going to take some time. All right, I want you to go with Daniel. Here's Jimenez Gonzalez. Plugged into this probation.
He wants you to go with your probation agent, probably just to kind of figure out your next step, you know. So if you have any questions, just ask the probation agent. If you have any questions for me, feel free to call me, you know, today or this week.
Mr. Verwey, stick with your AA in Pittsburgh and say hey to my sobriety court people that are over there. Everybody needs to lift everybody else up. You keep doing what you're doing. All right.